Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for WLBT Plus. My name is Cara Shirley, and I am your digital news desk host. I'll get the words out in just a minute. I'm very happy to be here with you on this Tuesday afternoon, about 1 o'clock, and we've got a lot of stories, a lot of things that have happened here in Jackson today, especially just in the last few hours. We're going to get a check in on your forecast, and then we are also going to speak with the CJ LeMaster. He's going to be coming in here in just a little bit, and we'll be talking about some uh, uh, stories and happenings in the Jackson area just recently in the past couple of weeks, kind of digging a little deeper into those. So he'll be joining us a little bit later. Right now, though, the big story that I'm sure every Jacksonian is talking about is the breaking news that we had brought you earlier about the manhunt that was happening in Rankin County. So, according to Rankin County Sheriff's Officer, um, around 9:49 this morning, a call came in, and that call um, it was about a gunshot victim. Hold on, let me turn the video down for you guys. So it was about a gunshot victim at North Grove Circle in the Reservoir area. So the caller told the police that when she arrived home, she had found her son unconscious with an apparent gunshot wound to his side, and he was inside the residence with that gunshot wound. Witnesses also told law enforcement that they saw a small white passenger car leaving the scene at a high rate of speed. Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey says that the suspect did actually, in fact, turn himself in, and that happened within the past hour. So he is now in custody. The suspect was wanted for shooting and killing a 20-year-old at that house on North Grove Circle in the Reservoir area. I want to show you where that house is, though. So let me take you to that. So here we are looking. Here is Pelahatchie Bay. We've got the Ross Barnett. I'm going to pull the camera out some for you. So here's Jackson, Flowood, and Goshen Springs up here. And this is the Brandon area. So it was on the 300 block of North Shore Avenue. And I'm sorry, North Grove Circle. I apologize for that. So here we can see this is North Grove Circle right here. This is where the shooting happened, and the suspect is now in custody. It is being charged for murder, and Sheriff Bailey says that the identity of the suspect will be given out within the next few hours. As soon as we get that information, we will, of course, pass it along to you through our app. Make sure you download our app so you can get that notification of the breaking news. Another thing that happened in Rankin County is now there's a Rankin County man who's going to be spending the rest of his life, or decades, which could be the rest of his life, behind bars for multiple counts of child exploitation. So this is the gentleman here. His 33-year-old Willard Knight pled guilty to charges of child exploitation. They found several devices that contained a lot of photos and videos of child pornography. Those were seized and processed from Knight's home during an undercover investigation by the Rankin County Sheriff's Department back in 2023. Now, at the time of his arrest, and he was already a registered sex offender who was on supervised probation through the Mississippi Department of Corrections for a 2015 conviction of child exploitation. Now, in the 2015 case, he was sentenced to serve 40 years, with 35 of those years being suspended. After these recent charges, his suspended sentence is revoked, and he will now have to spend the entirety of his suspended sentence, as well as charges for the current situation that or the current child pornography that they found. So he's going to serve a total of 50 years, day for day, without the possibility of parole or early release. You know, this is just, it's sad. It's horrible. It is a horrible situation. It's a horrible thing for him to get into, to be a part of, those poor children. I just think about that, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And it makes me wonder what would have happened if he would not have been released in the 2015 case. What if he would not have had to serve or gotten any of his sentence suspended? But you never know. We do know now that he will be behind bars for 50 years without the possibility of parole or an early release. So that at least we can be happy about in this situation. Now, something else that happened here in Jackson. Jackson police are investigating the death of a woman. And they say she was intentionally run over by a car multiple times. Multiple times. Wow. So this happened around 2 o'clock on Queen Alexandria Lane. And that is right here. Let me show that to you. Oh, I'm hitting wrong buttons. So here we go. All right. So the shooting happened. I'm sorry. The woman was run over. Like we said, it was multiple times that it happened. And give me 1 second. There we go. Finally, the computer is listening to me. Sorry about that. But it was on the 300 block of Queen Alexandria Lane. This is where that is. You can see we got downtown Jackson right here. And this is where the shooting took place. Queen Alexandria's Lane. So it happened, I'm sorry, not shooting. The woman was hit by the car. It happened around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Investigators did identify the victim as Turquoia McElvin. They say they have found the vehicle that was used in the crime, and they do have a person of interest in the case, but that person's name has not yet been released. If you have any information on what happened, they are asking that you please call JPD or Crime Stoppers to pass along the information that you have to them. Now, the multiple agencies here in the Jackson area are working together to help prevent carjackings here in the area. They're calling it a cracking down on carjackings. So U.S. Attorney Todd Gee announced the new carjacking task force, saying that the threat of being carjacked creates fear in people's daily lives, which I totally can agree with that. Whether they're in their driveway loading groceries in a parking lot, it's absolutely be terrifying to have someone come up and with a gun or whatever type of weapon they would use and take your vehicle from you. He says that this new task force is going to have federal, state, and local resources at their disposal, and agencies are going to be working together to share and act on information related to car thefts, carjackings, and the recovery of stolen vehicles. So this effort includes Jackson Police Department, Capitol Police, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, and the ATF. So Jackson Police Joseph Wade has praised these efforts, and he said, "We're witnessing on a regular basis the benefits of working collaboratively in order to combat crime." So it's a good thing all these guys, police officers and law enforcement, are working together to help stop carjackings from happening. And if you're going to be in the downtown Jackson area, especially over the next few weeks, you want to make sure you listen up, because they are going to be putting in parking meters 800 parking meters to be exact. So you can pay with cards, your card, you scan your card, or coins, or even your phone, like Apple Pay. The new meters are expected to bring in more than $2 million in revenue to the city and is teaming up with SP Plus Corporation on this project. And we do have information on how everything will work. Take a listen.
So the license plate is your primary credential. So you'll note your plate, go to the pay station, follow the instructions. There's going to be instructions on the screen as well as on the large decals that are on the side of the pay station. You can pay that way, or you can pay with your phone using an app or text-to-pay function.
We have to be able to recoup the revenue necessary to do all of the things that our residents want to see us do. And so we're eager to implement this and eager to identify new areas that have not had parking meters previously that are certainly in dire need of them.
Now, several years ago, CJ LeMaster did a story on the parking meters in Jackson. Right now, it costs $1 to park for an hour, and things are going to stay that way for right now, but it could possibly get bumped higher once all the meters are installed. SP Plus Corporation and the Jackson Police Department will work together to enforce the parking. So there has been a new study, which is something that I'm actually, I really believe in the study, okay? But as a new study shows that women are more likely to survive health issues if they have a female doctor. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with this because, feminism is or anything like that. I used to be way back. All I wanted was a male doctor, and now all of my doctors are females. So I'm very much yay for this. If this means that I'm less likely to die, awesome. The study also indicates that the women are less likely to be readmitted to the hospital. The difference is it's just 0.25%, but researchers say that statistically significant and noteworthy. So the study looked at Medicare patients over 3 years, and the notes finding might be different for younger populations. And the study is out of the Annals of Internal Medicine. So, like I said, I have all women doctors. I love them all, and hey, I'm gonna keep it that way. If even just 0.25%, I'll take it. I definitely will take it. So the Mississippi Braves will be no more after the season comes to an end. We are aware of that. We're very upset about losing them here in Jackson in the Pearl area. They will be going back to Georgia. But some people have asked the question, what's going to happen to Trustmark Park? Well, we spoke to state and local leaders who seem to be very confident that the 20-year-old stadium will not remain empty once the M-Braves leave town. What does that mean? Does that mean a new team? There has been a push to bring in a new minor league team. Now, neither Rankin County nor the city of Pearl own the ballpark. The owner is Spectrum Capital. And Spectrum is the entity working to fill the void that will exist once the Braves dip out. So Pearl Mayor Jake Wyndham said he's confident that the company will be able to recruit a new team to the park. And we talked to him. Let's hear what he has to say. Nope, that is not him. Let me get that video up for you. Well, I thought that I'd apologize. I don't have that video. But what he did say was that when they found out that the Braves were leaving, it was very unfortunate. But at the same time, they had one more year to play ball. So during that year, it gives you a little bit of time reprieve because of the fact that you have time to recruit and backfill. So at this time, we have a lot of confidence in them and being able to do that. They're already showing signs of doing that, and I think that we'll be in good shape. That is the mayor of Pearl, Jake Wyndham. And there's also a piece of legislation that is active but has not yet been taken up that would authorize Pearl and Rankin County to contribute a total of $1.5 million to the park annually. So we will definitely be watching that. So a Mobile man is facing charges this morning. He's accused of carjacking a vehicle with an adult and 3 children inside of it. And I just imagine how terrifying this was for those children. So, happened over the weekend in George County. Officials say a woman called saying a man jumped in her car and took it. And according to authorities, it happened while she was checking on a parked vehicle in the middle of Highway 98. And the car was another adult as well as a 10-month-old, an 11 and 13-year-old. Shortly after, police did arrest 34-year-old Demetrius Young. That's who's on the screen right now. And he has been charged with carjacking and kidnapping. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with our very own Peyton Garrison to get a look at our forecast. You guys stick around. We will be right back.
WLBT Morning News gets you ready for what's happening outside your door.
Taking a look at our first alert radar this morning.
WLBT Morning News is where you'll find Mississippi's most accurate forecast and how to prepare for news that will impact your day.
Breaking news overnight.
And it's happening right now in Jackson.
On your side with WLBT First Alert weather and anything you need to know for a day with no surprises. Start your day with WLBT Morning News. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7 and streaming on the WLBT News app.
I'm in pain.
Real people.
It should be terrifying to all of us.
It's dangerous.
Real problems.
I mean, that's unacceptable.
How can we work to change things?
Real life solutions. Investigate TV Plus.
Watch weekdays at 2:30 on WLBT. WLBT Morning News gets you ready for sudden weather changes.
Taking a look at our first alert radar this morning.
It's where you'll find Mississippi's most accurate forecast and the only station giving you a 10-day weather prediction, not just 7.
Going to zoom into the Jackson Metro so you know what to expect as you head out the door this morning.
WLBT First Alert Weather is Mississippi's most accurate forecast from Mississippi's most trusted station. Start your day with WLBT Morning News. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7 and streaming on the WLBT News app.
WLBT First Alert Weather gets you ready for everything. Every sudden weather change, every tornado threat, every day of the year.
Alerting you at the first sign of changes in the weather with Mississippi's most accurate forecast.
Sunshine and chilly mornings, you'll know first.
Need an umbrella? You'll be the first to know.
Strong storms, you'll know first.
Weekend plans? You'll know first.
Because when we know is when you'll know. Be ready for everything with Mississippi's most accurate forecast from the WLBT First Alert Weather Team.
WLBT is Mississippi's most trusted station during severe weather.
And we are back. I've got my camera on the wrong thing there, Peyton. Let me make sure I got where you can see Peyton. We're back here with Peyton Garrison. She is here. Let me move that camera. There we go. Hi, Peyton.
There we
How
go.
are you?
I'm doing swell.
So it's looking like a beautiful day outside.
Yeah, I mean, if you loved yesterday's weather, you're going to love today.
So tell us what we are looking at right now.
I mean, it's nothing but clear blue skies area-wide. This is a live look at our first alert sky cam Renaissance at Colony Park in Ridgeland. I mean, this is the view no matter where you're located across central Mississippi. And that sunshine is really warming temperatures up very quickly. We're already seeing 70s on the board. It's 72 in Jackson, 74 out in Vicksburg. Some spots weren't even able to make it out of the 60s yesterday. So as you step out the door this afternoon, it will feel a little bit warmer, but still not bad by any means.
So where I live, there's a pool, and I just found out last week that it's open. And so I may not get in it, but I can definitely sit beside it.
I mean, hey, you can sit beside the pool tomorrow, this weekend. I mean, I can't wait to break out the pool forecast for the weekends because we're going to be looking at 80-degree weather, not just for the weekend, but likely over the next couple of days. Slight chance for rain tomorrow. Otherwise, I mean, great weather just to sit by the pool, maybe not necessarily get into the pool for this weekend.
Although I have been known to swim in March. I will say that. But I'm not claiming to be sane or anything like that.
I mean, it's almost May, so I think it's acceptable.
It's good. I'm glad I have your seal of approval. So how is the weekend looking for us, too?
It's going to be very warm. You see leading into the weekend, it's going to feel warmer by Friday, lower and middle 80s. And we may be in the middle 80s this weekend, maybe even upper 80s in some locations, which isn't too out of the ordinary for this time of year. It is above normal, but I mean, 80-degree weather is probably here to stay for the next 7 to 10 days. I do not have any eyes on a cool down anytime soon.
And what about any rain in the forecast going forward?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, the slight chance for a few showers tomorrow that will really exist north of I-20. Otherwise, I mean, you see really low-end, minimal chances for rain between now and Sunday. That next chance for some showers and storms is probably going to be Monday of next week. So we have a nice long break of seeing any sort of measurable rainfall until then. So get outside, enjoy the weather between now and Sunday. But Monday of next week, you might need the rain gear back out. But at least we have a little bit of time between now and that next chance of rain.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and joining. Next time, I swear I will have your camera ready.
That's okay.
On you. But we're going to jump into a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with CJ LeMaster. So you guys stick around.
WLBT Morning News gets you ready for what's happening outside your door.
Taking a look at our first alert radar this morning.
WLBT Morning News is where you'll find Mississippi's most accurate forecast and how to prepare for news that will impact your day.
Breaking news overnight.
And it's happening right now in Jackson.
On your side with WLBT First Alert Weather and anything you need to know for a day with no surprises. Start your day with WLBT Morning News. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7 and streaming on the WLBT News app.
I'm in pain.
Real people.
It should be terrifying to all of us.
It's dangerous.
Real problems.
I mean, that's unacceptable.
How can we work to change things?
Real life solutions. Investigate TV Plus.
Watch weekdays at 2:30 on WLBT. WLBT Morning News gets you ready for sudden weather changes.
Taking a look at our first alert radar this morning.
It's where you'll find Mississippi's most accurate forecast and the only station giving you a 10-day weather prediction, not just 7.
Going to zoom into the Jackson Metro so you know what to expect as you head out the door this morning.
WLBT First Alert Weather is Mississippi's most accurate forecast from Mississippi's most trusted station. Start your day with WLBT Morning News. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7 and streaming on the WLBT News app.
WLBT First Alert Weather gets you ready for everything. Every sudden weather change, every tornado threat, every day of the year.
Alerting you at the first sign of changes in the weather with Mississippi's most accurate forecast.
Sunshine and chilly mornings, you'll know first.
Need an umbrella? You'll be the first to know.
Strong storms, you'll know first.
Weekend plans? You'll know first.
Because when we know is when you'll know. Be ready for everything with Mississippi's most accurate forecast from the WLBT First Alert Weather Team.
WLBT First Alert traffic in the morning means no more unexpected roadblocks on your morning commute.
I've got the latest on the traffic conditions.
Start your day with WLBT Morning News. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7 and streaming on the WLBT News app. WLBT, 3 on your side investigates.
Looks like this place actually hasn't been used in some time.
On your side.
I'm about to cry.
With investigations that get you results.
My travel? Yes, I will have a statement for you.
Learn when issues will impact you.
That proves why we need to have this investigation.
Follow 3 on your side investigates at WLBT.com or stream it on the WLBT News app. WLBT is 3 on your side and Mississippi's most trusted station. Your most accurate 10-day forecast is on WLBT Morning News and the WLBT First Alert Weather app. The only station showing you weather predictions 10 days ahead. Wake up with WLBT Morning News 10-day forecast. Weekday mornings from 4:30 to 7. WLBT is on your side.
And if it wasn't for you, we still wouldn't have knew.
Breaking the most important stories.
The court
taxpayers a mistrial in the matter of the state of Mississippi versus William Ervin Edwards.
The police, they screwed up the investigation because they really didn't investigate.
Breaking news that impacts you.
Where is Cover going to stop? Where is it going to stop?
We are WLBT, 3 on your side. Mississippi's breaking news leader.
Hello, we are back, and I have CJ LeMaster here with me. CJ, I was not able to do a mic check for you. Talk from
Check, mic check. Everybody, she's roped me in here yet again.
I have.
Pulled me in from the hallway.
Oh, gosh. It was not that bad. You like it.
It's fine. Everything is fine.
Everything is fine. As long as you say that it is, or I tell you to say that it is.
Sure.
All right.
Normally you'd say pay no attention to the man or woman behind the curtain, but here you get to see it all.
You get to see it all.
You don't get to kind of retreat. Your whole setup is right here. So.
It's all right here, what we're doing. So CJ is joining me today for us to talk about the just several different stories, several things that have happened in the Jackson metro area, and we're just gonna kind of dabble around all of it, a lot of things.
Yeah, why not? Potpourri.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me CJ, what's something that has happened, one of the biggest stories lately?
Well, I would say probably the story we did with the MHP trooper has probably been one of the most popular. And I say that because of what we see on social media, but also too, we hear from people. People will reach out to us and will want to talk to us about various things. And this story we've been following for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, there was some information that we were able to put out there that nobody else had, which is always a good thing when we're able to learn something that kind of advances the conversation. Sometimes a news organization or like a citizen journalist or somebody will put something out there, and then we will not only confirm what they have, but kind of advance the story a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those things are important because it shows that we are constantly following it. We're constantly looking for other avenues where the story could go. And this one was crazy because it started with a woman who had been accused of sexually exploiting someone else. It was a female state trooper, Ivana Williams, who had been accused of sexually exploiting somebody who we're not going to name. We've never named this person because WLBT has a policy of not naming victims, whether alleged or confirmed victims of sexual assault or any kind of sexual impropriety, and so we're obviously going to respect the victim's privacy there. This woman has filed a civil suit against the state trooper. But that whole thing triggered what we're seeing now, which would be 2 MHP officers who have now been terminated because they had requested and received photos from that officer. Not the video that was claimed to be exploitation in question, but actual just photos of her. And one of those officers, the part of this story that we had that, again, was exclusive to WLBT, was that one of these officers, Julius Hudson, who was a former master sergeant with MHP, now is an investigator at the Rankin County Sheriff's Office. And so, not even 2 weeks after he is fired from MHP for really what amounts to an unprofessional conduct, ethical violations, if you will, nothing criminal, he's then hired. It's approved by the Board of Supervisors in Rankin County, and he's now the latest officer to work for Sheriff Brian Bailey, who, as we've talked about on here, has a number of problems that have happened in his department anyway.
Right.
Goon Squad and all this other stuff. So this, we talk about all the time how law enforcement agencies, if you see somebody get fired from one, they can get hired on somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often that you actually get the chance to actually confirm that as it happens.
Right.
And so it also makes me think, too, that anybody who's watching, if you know of anybody, if you've heard of somebody who's been fired from one agency, hired at another, please let us know, because...
Yes.
And again, it's not to say that this guy who's had 18-year career with law enforcement can't, or at least with MHP, it could have been a one-off, and he could certainly be entitled to have another chance at a job. the optics don't look the best.
They don't.
Public has a right to know when somebody's hired, whether or not they, have a record or there's a record that follows them. And in Mississippi in particular, we can't get that information. Most of the time, personnel records are exempt from disclosure, meaning, like, let's say somebody watching is like, well, I want to request, I heard somebody resigned from where I live, the city where I live. You can't get that resignation letter. You can't get that employee's personnel file. There are certain things you can't, the termination letters, stuff like that. There are other avenues we're able to get this through other agencies where things are filed, but by and large, you can't get that information from the agency. And so if we're like looking into people who are accused of being bad cops, it's really tough to get that information. Other states, some states will have that as, perfectly open. The public can request that. Here, you have to either do some digging or have somebody on the inside who's willing to kind of help you and show you where things are before you can actually confirm that.
Right. We talk about the personnel records and how they're not open. Should they be, or should they not be? Aren't they? They have a right to privacy, to an extent. Is it maybe certain levels? We could be able to go a certain level deep within their personnel file, or
when it comes to matters like this, I tend to argue on the side of transparency, and maybe it's an occupational hazard because of what I do for a living. But I think that if you are paid with taxpayer dollars,
right?
I think that if you are working and doing things, and you're in a position where you're protecting and serving, I think that you have to understand that what you're doing is not private. You have to understand, because we've had recently, and I don't mind saying the agencies that did this, in an effort to keep folks honest, there were agencies that did not, that tried to fight us on trying to get records, timesheets. Timesheets of employees, of law enforcement officers. The Department of Public Safety initially tried to keep us from getting those at a particular situation, and we argued that the law clearly states that that is not exempt, that we're able to get that. The city of Brandon tried to do that and pushed back when we tried to get this from certain officers and trying to see if certain officers were getting large amounts of overtime. So it is not something that City of Pearl tried to do the same thing, actually. And we, again, that's sometimes where we get our lawyers to come in and argue that. But to me, it's all about keeping, I mean, if I'm a taxpayer and I'm paying into this officer's salary, then I feel like I should have some sort of say in what I get to see. Now, in all fairness, we're talking about the law enforcement here. The legislature that's still in session right now, you can't get communications with lawmakers. You can't ask for their text messages. You can't ask for their emails. You can't ask for those things. They're not public.
Really?
The legislature has exempted itself from being able to, from having to produce that for the public. And they will always say it's because, like, let's say they're having conversations with lobbyists, things that might lead to an economic development announcement. If that stuff got out, it would sabotage those talks and all this stuff. But there are other states that allow this and have this as open. So, when it comes to trying to see, for example, if a lobbyist is influencing legislation and if they're doing things that are not above board, like taking legislators out to eat and doing things like this to try to persuade them, giving them gifts, we have no way of being able to see any of that because we don't have access to that. So it's a constant sort of back and forth. And there are a lot of states that are far more transparent than Mississippi, and there are other avenues where we actually do better than other states. So it's really, it depends on where you live. Some states, for example, you can't even ask for records unless you're a resident. So like if you came here as this was your first reporting job, you came here, which as many people do, not everybody who works at Wlbt are native Mississippians. I am. I think you are too,
I am.
Yeah. But like in Tennessee, you have to be a resident. So you can't even ask for records. So like if you are a national agency and you're trying to follow up on a story that happened, that's a barrier to you being able to get records that should be for everybody.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Put a pin in that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking more with CJ, so you guys don't go anywhere, but we will be right back.
see.
Okay, we are back, and
A little technical difficulty there.
technical.
Sorry about that.
Yep, but we got it fixed up. I
For
think.
once, people complaining they couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way around.
Usually he's talking too much. People make him stop.
Please stop.
So we were just talking about the personnel files of people, especially those in law enforcement or things like that. And you referred to some recent requests that we had put in. And were you talking about your side hustle story?
You know, we did have a little bit of pushback initially with that. There were a few things that we requested that, and again, I'm not saying that, by the way, the City of Pearl, anything we asked for, they provided to us without charging us. Most agencies don't do that, and so we appreciate that. That's a huge deal. I'll tell you this, and I can say this confidently, WLBT requests more public records than any other broadcast outlet in the state. Easily. We're in the 4th month this year. I've already made, I think, 50 requests this year for various agencies for things. Not everything that we request ends up making it on air. Sometimes you hear a tip and you're sending a request in, you're fishing for something, you're trying to see if there's anything to it. And sometimes we have stories that we have to confirm that maybe somebody else has or somebody has sent to us, and then we need to get more information. And so, you know, when it comes to confirming that this guy was hired in Rankin County,
right,
that we were able to do by looking at the minutes and the agendas of the Board of Supervisors meetings. And because they have where you have to approve the officers on there and various things. And so not only will you see that, but you'll also see, and this is kind of weird, it's a little too inside, hopefully it's not too inside, it's not boring anybody, but it'll say like so-and-so hired at step 386 or so-and-so hired at step 400. What is that? Those steps correspond to a piece of paper that lists salaries. So rather than them tell you the salaries that you could actually see on there, like how much per hour or how much a year, they have another, it's hidden until you request that document with the step chart to be able to see who's making what. And we have a copy of that, so we can actually, it's like a decoder ring. It's like you have to get that to decipher it. And that's fine, it's whatever. But to me, it's just like anytime you have information that is public, people in Rankin County have every right to know what every single public official in Rankin County makes. They have every right to know that.
I agree with that.
And so when that information is not readily available, that's where I have a problem. That's where I start to say, okay, wait a minute, we need to look at this, because even if the intent is not to keep that from people, the optics don't look good.
Right.
And I feel like, especially in my line of work and what we do at WLBT, is we try to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. We even try to make sure we take you inside the process. That's part of the reason for these segments, is because it helps show people that, you know, what we do, how we do it. And by the way, anybody can request public records in Mississippi. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be you. Now, granted, if they push back and try to deny them, we have a team of lawyers that helps and steps in and helps us out. The general public doesn't have that resource. And so they can also charge you a lot of money. I had a request that an agency, which I will not name at this point, tried to charge me almost $1,000.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. We spent probably $3 or $4 grand on records requests just last year.
Annie White over here says that I'm sorry, not Annie White, it's Amy Rayburn. Where did I get White from?
That's okay.
She says that transparency is a must.
Yeah. And
I guess, yes, I agree with that. Transparency is a must. We really do have to have the transparency, especially when it comes to, like with this trooper getting fired.
Yeah.
Or getting fired and then getting hired.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, it's not, we wouldn't have gotten those termination letters without knowing which agency we can actually get those from, because we can't request them through MHP or the Department of Public Safety. And so sometimes it's a matter of knowing where to look and knowing where you can get these things. You know, we had a story last week which really sort of built on some of the investigations we've been doing in Jackson for a while with regard to crime stats.
Right.
City of Jackson does not have monthly crime stats on its website right now. It hasn't for almost 4 years. And, you know, the chief has said that it's because they're working with a new vendor that can actually help them incorporate, you know, what the officers are typing in on their reports and how that translates into something that they can then make available to the public. But what it translates for us into is that the state's largest city, we don't have a picture of crime. We don't really know. We track homicides, but I couldn't tell you if aggravated assaults are up or down. I couldn't tell you if robberies are up or down. I couldn't tell you if carjackings are up or down. I couldn't tell you hot spots where these are happening in the city or any of that stuff. And so people need to know that information. And you know, there are a lot of cities that don't report that. I think the reason why we really talk about the fact that Jackson doesn't is because it's the state's largest city and frankly affects the most people, residents who live here, nearly 150,000 people who live in Jackson.
True.
And 250,000 who live in Hinds County. But, you know, we started realizing that there were some issues with the crime stats 5 years ago when the city was releasing information, and there were certain days where they didn't release numbers, and it was kind of weird. And we found out that on days they did release them, that it actually, some numbers were dropping, and then those numbers would go back up on the dates they didn't release. So they were, somehow the numbers were being manipulated or changed in order to make it look like the crime is less frequent than it is.
So they may say on one day that there were 200 murders, throwing out numbers, but there's 200 murders. Then on Wednesday they would say there's only 150 total. Yeah. And so it would be going up and down like that.
And what they did was the one that was being adjusted here were grand larcenies. And so these reports, they used to call them ComStat reports, they would release them every week. These ComStat reports they had year-to-date totals. And so if your year-to-date total is 63, and then the next week it's 38, and then the week after that it's like 68, and you're like, there's this little, it was here, then it drops, then it goes right back up to kind of where it was. And you're like, well, what's significant about where that drop is? Well, that's when they released them to the public. Oh. And so we found that accidentally 5 years ago. We did the story. The city scraps the way it does crime stats after that, and then pledged to start releasing monthly stats. They did that until, I think, June or July of 2020. The website will show that they don't have that many. That's when they stopped. And then hopefully we're going to be getting these, I think, in June. The new police chief, Joseph Wade, has said he really wants to make sure that information is out there, and he wants to make sure that it's accurate when it's put out there, which I think is a very big deal, because in the past we've seen issues with the accuracy. And so we want to be able to see that kind of stuff. We want to be able to make sure that anytime you're watching a press conference or you're hearing from a public official and they cite something or they say something, can you tell us why you think that? Can you kind of give us your sources on some of those things? Because as we know, working in this business, people can get on a camera or on a microphone, political leaders, and say anything. Yeah. Without any kind of, I hesitate to say fact checking, but it is true. And so we try to make sure that we do that as much as we can. And I think what you're going to see over the next weeks and months is more fact checking, particularly on the investigative side, because I think that's one of the most valuable things that we can do for the public is cut through the noise and say, okay, this is what is actually happening. And because we don't have an agenda here, I only want to make sure that we get the truth out there and and we're as transparent as possible in our process.
So you don't get paid per fact that you check?
No. And you know, it's funny. I don't get paid per fact. I don't get paid per word. I don't get paid per second I'm on the air. Any of that stuff. No.
It's amazing that you don't get paid per word and you talk so much.
That's the job that I want, I think. That's what I would like to have.
That's what you're gearing up for.
Right.
You're preparing for that.
Everything has been working toward that. But no, I think, and if you go to our website and you click on the Investigates tab, and you'll see the most recent stuff that we've had. And sometimes it's updates on court cases. And how does that? Well, it's our job to kind of let you know, well, this is why you should care about it. This is why it matters to you. We had that federal, goon squad member who appealed his federal sentence, which kind of came out of left field there.
Especially, we thought, once they got their state sentencing, after they got the federal, we thought, okay, well, they're done, they're going to jail, not collecting $200, straight to jail type of thing.
And I think it's important to point out, too, that when that story started making the rounds, everybody had it. And this is not to toot our own horn or WL, but this is just to show where it's important to have in-depth information. Everybody put up that, oh, he's appealing this. Nobody knew why, because all he had put out was what they call a notice of appeal. All that is like, I'm letting you know that I'm about to file. The appeal itself will tell why he's filing, right? And so everybody, there were some places that put oh, you can read the appeal here. It's not really an appeal. We don't know why he's appealing. But nobody asked the question that we did, which is, didn't he sign a plea agreement that said he couldn't appeal? What's that about? And so we talked to Matt Steffi, who's a law professor at Mississippi College, and he was like, yeah, there are just some narrow reasons why you could actually appeal that are not covered under his plea agreement, but which would be ineffective counsel, right? So he thinks that his lawyer did not do a good job. Or the other reason is if he felt like he was coerced in any way to have to sign that plea agreement, that document, and be okay with the sentence that the feds were offering him. If it's not one of those two reasons, there's a very real danger, according to this law expert, that Brett McAlpin, this is the guy who filed the appeal, could then find himself back in court again, and they could give him a stiffer sentence than what he already had, because they will be allowed to revisit that. If the plea agreement's violated, then they can kind of go back to square one on convicting him and using statements that were actually made during the federal process by the other defendants and by him against him.
Why, and maybe you can tell me this, but why, if his plea agreement said that he could not file appeals based on a small number of issues or problems, why would they even then accept an appeal?
I don't know. We tried to ask his attorney, Afram Sellers, that very question. Mr. Sellers did not get back to us after I think I emailed him and called his office as well. I'd love to know that answer. I don't know if he's watching, but I would absolutely love to know that answer, because I think, and again, he'll probably take the opinion of, well, you'll see it when we release that in court, when we send that. And I think they have 30 days from the notice. It's 30 or 60 days from the notice to file that. So we may not find out for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. But that's the million-dollar question, is why is he filing that? Does he feel like the sentence was too long? Does he feel like it wasn't just? In federal court, they have these sentencing recommendations that a judge looks at, and they'll be in different zones based on a variety of factors, and it'll basically tell you what you can and can't do. Now, to my knowledge, those are just recommendations. Those aren't requirements, so a judge can always go outside of that. And if the judge goes outside of that, maybe he has an argument for an appeal. I don't know. But we're not privy to that, because the sentencing guidelines and that kind of thing or a pre-sentence report that's put out, you can't get that information either. That's not considered public. It goes back to the court. The federal government does not believe that information should be released so that the public can see that part of the process. And so we don't really know unless somebody tells us.
Yeah. Which, throw it back up on the screen right here, your email address, of course, and mine too, or how people can get in touch with us. If anybody has any kind of tips, any information, you want to pass it along, please do that, because we have to have the help with the public sometimes.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, most, if not, I'd say the majority of my investigations have come from tips from the public. And so I can't stress enough that you trusting us allows us to be able to dig into these cases. And it is true that sometimes somebody will come to us with they're well-intentioned, and they'll bring us something, and we'll look into it, and there was nothing to it. And that's okay. I don't feel like my time was wasted, because we're looking into this. We're trying to make sure that there's nothing to it. And if there is something, then we're going to put it out there. And, I feel like they say sunshine is the best disinfectant. And I feel like that with these stories, because, even we talk about the Beth Ann White case, which is still moving forward. Trial will actually be next week. This is the second trial for Beth Ann White. She is charged with aggravated DUI, I believe 4 counts, and another count of 4th offense DUI for a November 2021 incident where she hit another vehicle, killing Allison Conaway and her infant child, injuring seriously Mrs. Conaway's 2 daughters. And so the defense attorney in this case, her attorney, White's attorney, tried to get the case dismissed, tried to get the charges dismissed, tried to get a change of venue, meaning he tried to get it moved to another county. He tried to get it moved to another county because of our investigating, because specifically Patrice Clark and other members of our staff here who are incredibly good at digging deep and finding this information, had found just a plethora of previous cases that showed her DUI history over time, and how she had never really served much, if any, jail time for that. And so that all of that looks like you have a situation now where she's allegedly hit and killed someone, and her blood alcohol level was past what it was supposed to have been. You had officers on the scene saying that she appeared intoxicated. The defense attorney tried to get the charges dismissed because he believes that the specific charge itself was the incorrect charge. And what I mean by that is, statute breaks down very specifically how you should charge someone in cases of DUI and other things, like if it's alcohol, if it's a different substance, all these different things. Right. And so if you don't have your case buttoned up to where you're charging the exact correct thing, a defense attorney will rip that apart and say, well, you're trying to prove something that didn't actually happen. And so it's not a question of whether she's guilty of doing this. It's a question of whether what the state charged her with and what a grand jury indicted her with, they have enough evidence to prove. And the judge felt they did, so he denied Kevin Camp, as Miss White's attorney, he denied that motion to dismiss. Kid said a DUI is a DUI. That's kind of what he remarked in the courtroom, which isn't technically true because obviously there are different stages to that. But they're going to try to appeal to the Supreme Court. So even if the case, which we fully expect it will still go to trial, even if the case, whether it ends in a mistrial, if it ends with her conviction next week, then it looks like her attorney is going to appeal to the Supreme Court and try his chances there. Obviously, if she's found not guilty, he won't have to do that. But he's already said, essentially, that he wants to push this to the Supreme Court and get them to weigh in on it because he believes that it was the wrong. It's a technicality, basically. It was the wrong specific subset of charges that she was charged with, and she should have been charged with a different statute. And again, if that's true, then that falls to the DA's office for not charging her with the correct thing. DA's office maintains they have. We'll see how it plays out in court.
Well, yeah. Yep, and we will definitely be following it, especially CJ here. We know that you will be following it. Well, can you tell us, give us a little insight into anything else that may be coming up down the road with 3 on Your Side Investigates?
So we try to keep these pretty close to the vest because I don't want to give anybody ideas about what we're working on. But I think I'll just say that we are looking into, when it comes to court cases like this. Obviously, they've had a lot of court cases that have been in the public eye. We've had a former interim Hinds County sheriff who was indicted a while back. We had a guy who used to work for the Jackson Police Department who was indicted a while back. We've had some various cases that we're following, and sometimes, depending on how those go, we'll be able to break those out and do stories on them. But rest assured that we keep a close eye on these cases because, the court administrator, the judge, they don't send us emails saying, "Hey, you've got a big break in this case. Yeah. We want you to tell people about this." We have to just sort of look for those and make sure that and it keeps us honest. It keeps us looking through that information and making sure that we are following up with and not everything's a story, but I think we have some with a one court case in particular, which I won't detail, that we're going to have this afternoon. That'll be pretty interesting. And to me, I just think that it also is a way for us to show the criminal justice process. And, you know, I never have professed to be a lawyer, wouldn't start now, never passed the bar, never tried. All I know from legal work is what I've observed here in the job and watching episodes of Law and Order, which is probably not a good example. So, but
I could be a doctor with all the Grey's Anatomy
there you go.
that I watch. So,
yeah, exactly. So, you know, like I said, we do our best to try to decipher it. And the key thing is, too, we also understand that most people who are watching at home aren't lawyers either. And so we have to get all this information and try to figure out a way to break it down to where not only you understand it, but also to where you understand why it's important to you.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like if it's something that I don't think the public really cares about, I'm not going to care about it as far as us doing something on it, because we have a small amount of time to be able to get all that information out there. And so each and every day, whenever you watch our newscasts, you're going to see those stories in order of importance and in order of urgency. And you're going to see those things that we truly believe that you need to know about in order to go through your day and be able to make the best decisions. And so one thing I think is important is if you don't see a story that you've heard about, maybe a friend told you about it, maybe you saw it on social media and that kind of thing, please don't assume that just because you don't see it on our newscast, that we somehow know about it and we're hiding it from you, because I promise you that's not the case.
No.
That's not, I want to know of anything happening, and keep in mind that we're not always going to be told by law enforcement agencies if something is happening either, for whatever reason.
That is unfortunately true.
If it's a car wreck that you've heard about, if it's something else, if it's a development in a case, please let us know, so we can get that information and confirm it and get it out there to everybody.
Yes, yes.
You know.
Well, I appreciate you joining me today for WLBT Plus. Let me ask you a few fun questions. All right, you got to give me I'm going to ask you just 10 questions. You got to give me the first answer that pops into your head, okay?
No. Okay.
All right. Favorite pet?
Dog.
Name?
Favorite name or favorite name of
favorite
dog?
Animal name.
Animal name. So I have a dog named Natchez. So named him that because we found him on the Natchez Trace. He was a little puppy.
Favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese.
Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, Coke, yeah.
Mountain Dew or Mellow Yellow?
Mountain Dew. I grew up on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
McDonald's or Chick-fil-A?
Well, I grew up eating McDonald's. I like them both now, but listen, you know how this is. The food that we grow up with, whether it's good for us or not, is sometimes it's comfort food. It's the stuff we, So I'll just say equally. I'll just say both equally.
Okay. Ketchup or mayonnaise?
Ketchup.
Do you not like mayonnaise?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's
fine. That'd be weird to me if you didn't. I think everybody.
No, it's fine.
I think every Southerner has to like mayonnaise.
I thought you were going to ask Hellman's or Miracle Whip.
No.
So that's
because those aren't even on my radar. I don't like those.
Yeah.
All right. When did you know you wanted to be a journalist in journalism?
So I was in school long enough to be a doctor, but I was going to school at Northeast Mississippi Community College up in Boonville. It's a not a very large college, and I had gotten a job working with the student newspaper there, ended up getting an editorial position there, and it paid my way through school, thankfully. And then after that, I had already been in school for some other stuff that didn't pan out. And so I said, I'm just going to take a break. I'm not going to do anything. And then a friend of mine reached out and he said, hey, there are about to be some vacancies at WTVA, and that's in Tupelo. I grew up watching that station, 20 miles away. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll just put my name in for it, whatever. I'm not doing anything. And I fell in love with it. And I thought, well, for me to be able to get a job as a reporter, I'll have to have a bachelor's degree. So off I go back to Mississippi State, and my first semester back, I was taking 18 hours a semester, and I was working 50 hours a week in Tupelo, and I was driving back and forth 3 days a week. It was a gauntlet, but it was something that was self-imposed because I had taken forever to decide.
Yeah.
And I finished up. I got the job in Tupelo a month after graduating, and then 5.5 years later came here. So, yeah, I think I got bitten by the bug while I was there, and I really enjoyed the job, but I really enjoyed the people more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now it's something where, I really enjoy everybody I work with here, but I think too it's that added responsibility of, we have just a few minutes to be able to tell you the news of the day. here's what we think you need to know about to get through it. And, you know, it's a very big responsibility. It's a huge responsibility because public trust in journalism has been eroded so much in the last decade. And I can tell you, I can't speak for national outlets. I can't speak for cable news outlets that aren't regulated by the FCC, unlike broadcast stations. But I can tell you that from our end here and everybody who works here, that we're doing our dead level best to make sure we get you everything you need to know each and every day. And if there's a mistake made, it is not intentional, but we are human, and sometimes that happens. Unfortunately, it does. And we're all striving to be better. And you know, I think it's an awesome responsibility that we get to inform people each and every day. And
it is.
And so that's kind of cool. Believe it or not, and I just got out of talking to my assistant news director about this. I had asked about being on here today, and I said, well, you know, I'm not exactly trying to be on television more. And I said, well, I guess I picked the wrong job for that. But, you know, and there are people that go into this industry that just want to see themselves on TV. I'm not that guy. That's not, it's part of what we have to do to be able to do our job. And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
That's fine.
Well, one last question for you. Who is your favorite digital news desk host in this room right now?
Well, that would be Cara Shirley, actually. I think
awesome.
so. I
Thank
think so.
you.
I believe
Yeah.
so. It's like I told Dave one day, Dave Roberts, our chief meteorologist, he's my best friend, and so I told him, I said, you're my best friend, and he looked up and I said, in the 601, and then he was like,
Well, I'm the best one that he works with within the confines of these.
That's true.
This room
Right
here.
now.
Yeah,
That's
right
it.
now at this moment. All right, guys, we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much for joining us for WLBT Plus. CJ, thank you for coming on and chatting with me.
Thanks for having me.
I love having you here because you're so easy to talk to, and you're full of information. All of these stories, these cases, all of this stuff that he's been telling us about today, guys, it's just right there. It's in his head. And I can't remember my children's names sometimes, but he knows all of that.
So we take this very seriously. If somebody tells us something and they want it to be off the record, then that means that we can't put it out there unless we confirm it through some other means, somebody else, meaning that the person who told us won't be hung out to dry for telling us about it. Probably 90% of the stuff that I've been told off the record stays up here because we're not able to get it confirmed and get it out. And that is, you know, that's part of it. That's
part of it.
But if you do, you think to yourself at home, like, well, what if it's something really good and they tell you off the record and you can't, the minute you cross that line, you start to lose credibility.
Right.
And if you lose credibility, people don't trust you and they don't want to give you information to help you find out things. And so it's not worth the flash in the pan to violate that trust just to get something out there for 5 minutes.
It's called being ethical.
Yep.
Yep. And that's one thing we do here at WLBT. Well, we're going to let you go. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'll be back tomorrow at 1, and you never know when you'll see the master in the room.
I don't know about that at all. That's not, no.
All right, well then just tell everybody bye. Bye,
Have
y'all.
a good one.